Welcome back. So as promised, what we'd like to do is allow you to take a look at the interface of one of these hybrid type of solutions. So we're already past the point of understanding that, that for your particular architecture, a pure image-based backup or a pure file-based backup is not a good fit. And so as we look through here, you can take a look at just what flexibility exists with these devices and what are the different options that exist as well. And so we'll take a look through here, and hopefully this will get you comfortable with the interface. The first thing you'll see as you log in is just simply the main dashboard. So here there are quick links for any particular section that you want to get to very quickly, and we'll take a look in detail though for each one of these devices on the left hand side. So what we're looking at now is just the information about this device itself. This one, as you can see, is a Cytera device, and what this allows you to do is have a basically an appliance or a server-like box on your premise, and this serves things locally. We'll look at later how you actually push these files and backups off premise, but just suffice it to say that these are the specs on the device itself as you take a look at it. You can see here the configuration inside. You can see the hard drive space. Here we actually have a RAID 1 situation with 2 internal drives. You can see the storage volumes themselves, and of course the last couple of events. What we're looking at now is just simply the activity monitor. As you can see active sessions or agents that are connected, also administration sessions that are connected as well. Next thing we'll look at is the local backup feature that is baked into this appliance. So you can see here what we're looking at is the actual servers that are being backed up with this particular appliance. Here there are 3 in particular, and basically this is the overview of the backups that are configured for these 3 servers. You can see the server names, you can see the fact that these agents are online currently, you can see the last file level backup that was completed. You can also see if in fact you have disk level backups configured, when the last one of those was, and then you can also see the profile that is being used for the backups themselves and also the version of the agents. So if in fact you wanted to take a look at the servers themselves as they're configured, or whether you're wanting to go through the process of downloading an agent and protecting a new server, this is basically where you can come to. We'll take a look at the options that exist at the server level for servers that are currently being protected. So what we're looking at now is actually the agent itself that is configured on the servers. Here you can see that you will be able to look at some integration that exists between the agent and Windows. You can see that we'll be able to look at file backup settings, and you can be able to run a restore right from here. So what we're looking at now is the restore screen, and you can see from here basically we have all of the retention that exists for this particular server, so that you can do one of 2 things. You can browse and take a look actually at the local data store for those particular points in time that those backups were conducted, or you can actually go through a restore wizard by clicking this link here. One of the things to notice, or one of the things to note I should say, is that you don't always have to run these restores or these sessions from on-premise only. These are available through a centralized management interface as well. So if in fact you're working with a managed service provider, or if you are a managed service provider, that all of these options and all of these statuses can be seen from one centralized place. So what we're looking at now is the file level backup settings. We are using the global settings, but you can actually create your own type of backup schedule or your own options in terms of files to back up or applications to back up. You can build exclusion lists and things like that, but here we're essentially backing up all new differentials every single day that we back up. Last thing we'll look at here is the Explorer integration. And here you can see there's just some very basic options that exist. You can display icons in Windows Explorer. This will actually show you like a little green plus sign next to all of the files and folders that you're protecting. It's a very good visual reminder of what you are actually protecting and what you aren't. And then here are some notifications that you can turn on or turn off when backups start and end, as you can see. So what we'll do now is we'll go back and take a look at the remainder of the options that exist for the local backups themselves. So what you're looking at now is the ability to run a clientless backup. So you saw before that we have agents actually installed onto servers that you can back up at regular intervals, but here actually gives you an option to run clientless type of backups. And so instead of being a push from an agent, you can actually do a pull from the appliance. And you can schedule these as frequent or infrequent as you like. You can see here are some very simple servers and machines that are already, basically available to be seen from the appliance here. And so again, you can do this without an agent, which is pretty cool. The sync rules that exist here, I won't go into those, but that is basically the synchronization rules of those clientless backups. So in the sake of time, we will skip that. Next thing we'll look at is actually the cloud backup options that exist on this appliance. So what we're looking at now is the cloud backup So what we're looking at now is the cloud backup options that exist for this device. And what the important thing to understand here is that local backups and the synchronization of those files off-site does not actually have to occur at the same time. You can configure local backups to run as frequently or as infrequently as you like, as we've seen. And then from here, you can also configure how, when we actually replicate these items off-site. And so first of all here, this control panel just gives you a very high level of what options exist. And here what we're looking at is actually the files to backup off-premise. And so under the covers, this thing is just a very sexy NAS or network attached storage device. And so it really is broken down in terms of folders and a folder structure. So here's where we actually can plan and select what folders we want to replicate off-site. So this particular client that we're looking at here may be grayed out for you or blurred out, but the important thing to understand here is that these folders that are selected to be sent off-premise are the ones that are going to be replicated off-premise, and the ones that are not, of course, are not going to be. What we're looking at now is the backup sets that exist. You can take all files of all shapes and sizes and choose to back up every single one of those off-premise, or you can only select specific ones. You can see here's some of the ones that come right out of the box, but let's say that you only want to send documents or only images or videos or audios or emails, or basically you can do a combination of all. And so you can either enable or disable those as like the catch-all rule or as only the specific rule. And next thing you can obviously do as well is exclude things to be backed up. And so here you can see that temporary files do not get replicated off-site, and there are really no other exclusions for this particular client. But here's you can protect yourself in the event that you don't want to be sending, PST files or audio or video or anything like that. Of course, generally speaking, you will pay for the storage off-premise, and so something you want to be cognizant of is not to send files off-site that don't need to be sent off-site. And what we're looking at now is the schedule of this cloud backup process. And so you can see that we send this offsite every 24 hours, or you can specify a time. Really, if you go with the top option, it really is it's just periodically. So if the last backup were to occur at 10:15 in the morning, the next one's going to be sent at 10:15 the following morning. You can also say here that with the specific time that you can give it a start time and a stop time. When it's done, or hey, I want you to stop at this particular time. You have lots of options that exist. And of course, the last piece of this that is probably near and dear to everybody's heart is your ability to control throughput. So if you don't want this device sucking up all your bandwidth all day long, then you can choose to throttle the bandwidth usage here in this setting. Next thing we'll take a look at is the options that exist for user setup. So what we're looking at now is the Users tab, and here you can see the individual users that exist for this appliance. And these are all local users particularly. We will talk in a moment about how you can integrate this with your Active Directory. Obviously the other thing that you can do here is that you can add either custom or kind of out-of-the-box groups. Next thing we'll look at is your ability to share files. So what we're looking at now is the network shares. Here you can see the name of these network shares. You can see the path that exists in this network share, and also what kind of protocols are enabled. We will go and take a look at one of these just so you can see all of the options that exist. You can see here are all the sharing protocols are enabled. There is Windows file sharing, Apple, FTP, rsync, Cetera, excuse me, the ability for somebody with an agent to actually see the share, and also when somebody's logged into the interface, if they can conduct a full text search on this or not. And here's how you would conduct Unix file sharing, or NFS, whether you enable that or disable it. Here's where you can configure permissions with either local users or domain users, and you can give them certain rights like read-write, or you can give them read-only, or you can give them no permissions. And here's where you finish up the wizard. So the biggest thing to take away here is, again, under the covers this thing is a NAS, but you can see just how much flexibility and power exists with the integration of doing all these types of things together. Next thing we'll take a look at is just what kind of collaboration exists on this, and how you can configure some of the actual shares themselves. So what you're looking at now is the ability for you to collaborate with additional users. You can see the two options that exist under collaboration here is if in fact you want to create a public URL for you to publish a file share to. So let's pretend that you have quite a few technicians in the field that perhaps you want to publish the latest technical manuals or something like that to. You could perhaps enable a URL for that, or if you're just simply wanting to send somebody a document for viewing in the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks, you can basically turn on a public URL for that document to actually be addressed to. And then under project collaboration, this basically enables you to turn on and invite external users to come in and collaborate on projects with you. So whether that's somebody within your organization that doesn't happen to be a user on this device, or whether that's a client of yours, you can have some pretty interesting and powerful workflow rules and folders that exist for you to put all types of information in while you're in your project planning or your project execution phase. And as discussed before, here's where you configure your Windows file sharing. So you can see here's where you turn on or turn off CIFS, and then down below is where you either assign this thing to a work group or assign it to your domain, so that you can one, have integration of your usernames and passwords with your current Active Directory structure, and you can actually publish particular groups that are on your network. You can publish those same type of groups to this device. So there's some pretty powerful integration there. So I will skip over these last things underneath these share categories, but you guys remember that as we were looking at the shares themselves, whether you turned on FTP and NFS shares, here's where you can configure all those settings. Next thing we'll go look at is the storage menu. So what you are looking at now is the storage menu. So you can see here that we only have one particular array inside of this device. There are 2 drives, as we said, in RAID 1 configuration. And so here's where you can actually take a look at just the status of the array itself. This thing does go through scheduled scrubbing once per week as a general rule. And here's where you can see that as well. We'll take a look at the volumes next. So you can see here that here's where the volumes is. We only have one volume, but this is where you could get pretty creative in terms of how you configure your volumes. So if in fact you do have a larger version of this particular appliance, you can obviously have different arrays in there. You can have different volumes. Perhaps one is more they have SAS drives for higher performance and backups and things like that, whereas your traditional file shares are maybe SATA drives or nearline SAS. And so this just gives you the ability to take a look at the different volumes that are in your appliance. But again, here for this particular instance, we only have one. What you're looking at now is the snapshot capability of this appliance. And so what I will do by selecting this particular volume is I will look at the scheduled snapshots and the historical ones that exist. So just as with any good type of backup appliance or NAS device or storage array, you do want to have the ability to fall back to a previous configuration in some way, shape, or form. So here's where you can see those snapshots themselves. Some of the last things we'll cover here is the cloud services. So you can see that here, this one in particular is actually connected to an off-premise storage location. There's some settings in here that really we're not going to go into too much, but suffice it to say is that this is where you, in the cloud backup section, you actually schedule those backups to go off-site, and under here, the cloud services, this tells where those backups are actually going to go. All right, so now what we're looking at now is the actual file structure of all the shares. And so all the legwork and all the hard work and all the planning and administration you put into building these folders and giving them share names and giving them permissioning and all these types of things, all this really comes to fruition right here. And so as a general rule, your users are going to interact with this thing in a handful of ways. They're either going to interact with it through this website or this web-based portal like we're looking at now. That is able to be logged into again from anywhere if you have it configured correctly. Your users will interact with this thing via like a mapped network drive on their laptop or desktop in the office, or these folks are going to interact with this on a mobile device of some sort. Maybe that's an Android phone or an iPhone or an iPad. And really, the only two things that really have special permissioning and it acts a little bit non-standard is this backup folder here, as well as the users folder. The users folder, as we talked about before, is when you stand up and have each individual users have their own folder underneath that. And then of course the backup folder is where your servers and your endpoints actually back up to on this device. But as a general rule, you can see here, just like any other type of network-based storage, you have a file structure, you have documents underneath those file structures. There are Word documents, again you can copy, you can paste them. You have lots of options here that just exist, quite honestly, with any type of network-based storage. You can download this device here. Again, you can copy, you can paste it. And even up here, as we discussed those snapshot capability before, you have the ability to go in here and you can select the snapshot that you actually want to pull that particular file from. And so this is where I'll conclude. You can see here that I hope that we've looked through here and saw, I should say, that this device is not anything magical itself. What this device and what devices like this, the value that they really bring to an end user or to an administrator of some sort, is the power to unify different processes. That is shared storage, that is user directories, and that is backups, and it basically consolidates them into one appliance, sends those things off-site so that you can get to them in a myriad of ways. And as we talked about it in the segment, I hope you've taken a look through here and seen yourself just how powerful this thing can be, and how you could bring this to bear on a tremendous amount of business issues you might be facing. So thanks a lot.